Well, folks, hello again. A quick, nice little turnaround here. Doubleheader, Major League Baseball, little NFL talk. It never sleeps. The information never sleeps at sportsbookraview.com as we got you covered in all sports all year round. And it's time to talk a little bit of NFL action. It's a football Friday, Kyle. Who says no? Not me.
Not me. And hey, am I the only one that was waiting for the little, you get, trained into the little intro screen?
Up here like, oh, okay, here we go.
Yeah, exactly. I did the exact same thing, which I think is funny. But hey, it's football time. And look, the NFL draft's less than 2 weeks away. So there's a lot of NFL stuff to cover. I have a sneaky suspicion that we're going to have a little bit more NFL stuff as we ramp up to the draft. And I love the topics today. Anytime I get to make fun of the Lego policeman, Sam Darnold, I'm in. So I'm excited today. Football Friday. Cheers to everyone. I hope you all had a great week and looking forward to the weekend. That's for sure.
No, certainly. Let's wrap it up. Let's hit this out in grand style. A couple topics that we want to hit. And each and every week we try to keep you updated on what's going around the NFL, just to wet that beak, getting you ready for opening day in the NFL, which again, we're sitting here in April. Before you know it, Kyle, we're going to do a show in May. We're going to do some shows in June, July, and August. And here we go, off and running. But some interesting stuff here coming up. And it seems to me, and it's great because the 49ers are your team. They continually come up in the news because people aren't believing the hype. Every executive around the league is telling me right now that number 3 draft pick is going to be Mac Jones. Oh. And then we all say, you really traded like 3 drafts to get Mac Jones when you probably could have just used maybe 1 first rounder to get up into that 5 or 6 hole. It's really astounding as it goes. But outside the quarterback position, we're going to spend some time in just a few moments, again, rehashing the quarterback thoughts here for the 49ers. But from your perspective here, outside of quarterback, which we know they're going up to. I doubt they traded to get Kyle Pitts to match up, which would be a hell of a dynamic duo here if you actually did that. But looking at outside needs for the 49ers, we know they have a nasty pass rush. Decent on the offensive line. You got weapons on the outside, some quick running backs. What are we looking at here from a value perspective outside of picking a quarterback in this draft early?
Yeah, I mean, well, the 49ers, if I'm the 49ers, their glaring need, and I mean, if you're going to trade it for Mac Jones, you may as well keep Jimmy Garoppolo. It's the same damn player. I don't understand why the hell you would do it. And it's just the dumbest thing, and I do think it's all smoke and mirrors. But when you look at the 49ers, look, they lost Richard Sherman. It's a passing league. You're in a division now with Stafford, Kyler Murray, who's up and coming, of course, Russell Wilson, with those great receivers in Seattle. You need defensive backs, and I would think that would be the first line of defense for the 49ers. Let's fill these voids left by some of the veterans who left in that secondary. We know the pass rush is going to be healthy next year. Bosa will be back, Armstead, etc. So really what we need is someone in the back end who can defend. They did re-sign Jason Verrett. When he's healthy, he's very, very, very good, but he's not very durable. We need defensive backs. So hopefully the 49ers are using their brain the rest of the draft and at the top of the draft. Please, Lord, let it be Justin Fields. I just can't imagine it being Mac Jones. I just don't see the difference between Jimmy Garoppolo and Mac Jones other than Mac Jones hasn't been injured in the NFL. But defensive back really stands out to me. I know they could use a little bit of defensive tackle help. They're pretty young there. Kinlaw, the first-round pick last year. But the secondary seems to be a big hole the 49ers need to fill. If they can shore that up, that defense should be back to the elite level that we expect them to be at. And maybe they can get to that team total, which, as I'm trying to find, over 10.5. Big number for the 49ers there. But I think if they shore up that secondary a little bit, they can get there.
And here's what doesn't make sense because, we're talking about what they need. They don't – this team – if it's healthy, is able to compete for a Super Bowl. So you're looking at some of those luxury positions here. Do you add on maybe a legitimate running back who can – we know the 49ers, their home runs are not the passing game, at least under Jimmy Garoppolo. It actually comes out of the running game, which is fantastic to watch. It's such a nice, breath of fresh air compared to what most teams look to do. You look to hit the home run in the passing game. It's almost the opposite with Kyle Shanahan. How many times we see those quick backs bust long runs? But you're right. Jason Verrett, top 10 cornerback, at least ranked as a top 10 quarterback when he is healthy. You just need to get that defense back on the mend. Jimmy Ward's a very good safety. You're looking at Mosley and Williams again in that secondary. It would be a nice luxury to add another legitimate cornerback because you're set on the front line. If D Ford can come back healthy, Bosa comes back when we know He's training his ass off trying to get ready back for the season.
Yeah.
He's going to be a warrior. Fred Warner, one of the best young linebackers in the game, if not the best linebacker overall in the National Football League. So I agree with that. But it always gets centered back to the quarterback position because you brought up the point. It's 17 games here now. So you look at the 10.5. It's not really 10.5. It's roughly 10, right? Would be the number if you're looking at a 16-game schedule. You're not going to guarantee one more game, you put one more win. No, you could probably put a half of a win in that category. But if we're going with Mac, here's where it's baffling my mind. And I don't care who you go with, Kyle. If it's, Mac Jones or you're going with let's just say any of the other quarterbacks, that hurts your team total. Are you going with Garoppolo the whole year, but you used all these draft picks to trade up and get a quarterback, which doesn't help you this year when you're a Super Bowl team? I need help explaining this. Like, I love the 49ers organization, the talent they have on the field. I love their head coach, but this one has me scratching my head.
Yeah, well, it's certainly an indictment on Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think you can go back to their Super Bowl year and see there wasn't a whole lot of faith in Jimmy Garoppolo from that coaching staff. Look at that playoff run. I mean, it was 2 games where he threw 14 passes, I believe it was. In 2 games total, they threw 14 passes. They relied on that defense and didn't trust him. And then when it came Super Bowl time, sort of that gaffe at the end of the first half, luckily George Kittle was able to haul in that long catch and they're able to salvage something. And then you saw it. He just wasn't really ready, missed that throw if that pass is caught by Emmanuel Sanders and they win that Super Bowl, it's a whole different narrative now. But he's been unhealthy 2 of the 3 seasons he's been there. The 1 year he was there, he played good. We go to the Super Bowl. They didn't really trust him. I just don't think the coaching staff is sold on Jimmy Garoppolo. And you're right. You'd feel a whole lot better about a team total or a futures bet if they're drafting a Kyle Pitts at the top of the first round and adding to the talent that they already have instead of trying to buffer and fix a position that they already have a player at. So I certainly agree. I think that's a great angle to look at it. But I still do think just when you look at this team overall, the amount of talent that they have that should be healthy this year, it's very rare that you see teams. I mean, they set a record for players in terms of dollar values on injured reserve last year was something over $80 million. So just the entire roster was hurt from top to bottom, from start to finish, from quarterback to running backs, wide receivers, their entire defense. They just couldn't stay healthy. You assume that will regress more to the mean this year and they'll be back to being fully healthy and a contender. Would love it if Garoppolo had proven himself. Me as a 49er fan, I'm sort of ready to move on from Garoppolo. I'm kind of tired of wondering if my quarterback's going to be healthy, if he can step back and make the throw without his knee buckling, this, that, and the third. Me personally, I'd love to see Justin Fields. I think the upside is Deshaun Watson plus. He's got that Josh Allen type arm and those physical attributes. If they draft Mac Jones, they traded all that stuff away from Mac Jones. I'm going to be a very unhappy man during that draft show, which I assume will be on, and the days after. It'll be very strange. By all accounts, Kyle Shanahan wants Mac Jones. I think that's smoke and mirrors. They tend to lie around these times. I'm really hoping it's Justin Fields.
Yeah, we'll be doing some draft shows as we get closer. I believe Thursday and Friday we'll be on during the afternoon setting you up for those night draft cards, which is fun because as a fan, you don't even have to bet the draft. Just as a fan, the NFL draft is extremely – they put it in prime time for a reason. If you have a first-round draft pick for your team, you are looking forward to that night, even day 2 where you hit the second and third rounders. That is a lot of fun, so keep an eye on here on sportsbookreview.com when we release those show dates and also those show times during the afternoon. You'll be able to come in here and say hello. But as I look at the 49ers again, it's a ready-made team. If they return to the field in 2021, Kyle, without making any moves, forget draft picks, this team can make a legitimate run at the Super Bowl. But when I look at it, you're right. You say, let's just say, boy, Kyle Pitts is an NFL Hall of Fame stone cold guy. I got to give up a couple draft picks to get up, make sure I get to 3 to make sure I get him. I can almost believe that because then you're saying, I'm going to take George Kittle and Pitts, and we are going to run roughshod and really put our chips in the middle of the table and see if we could do some damage. Or vice versa, instead of using your draft capital, I think probably we're going to take a hard look at Deshaun Watson before these legal troubles come up.
Yeah.
Or let's even play devil's advocate on the other end. You used all this capital and you got up to number 1 and you were able to get Trevor Lawrence. Like as a 49er fan or as just a legitimate looking at the situation saying, dude, they just got their franchise guy. If it doesn't work out this year, they're set for 15 years or what they think at quarterback. But to go up to 3, not even get the first 2 quarterbacks on the board and then say, well, you probably could have got this guy a little bit later. It's just an odd theory, and you want to trust the process, as we say. But did you really trade like 3 first-rounders for Mac Jones?
They better not have. They better not have. That's all I know. They will not have a nice email from me. I will be very, very pissed.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. And you're kind of right. It almost doesn't make sense. Like, I like being aggressive and going out and getting your guy. And I would be excited. I'm big on Justin Fields, and, time will have to tell whether I'm an idiot or I'm smart here. But the upside of guys like he and Lance is so much higher. When you look at Mac Jones, I've watched a ton of tape over him the last few weeks after all this.
He's what Kyle Shanahan wants, though, to be honest, though, right?
I know he is. And it's like, why do you want that? It's like, I have these friends who date these weird women. And I'm like, why? Why do you want to date her? She's going to take half your shit and then it's over. She's never going to be nice to you. She doesn't like your kids. Why are you dating her? That's what I feel about Mac Jones. If you don't like Jimmy Garoppolo, why the hell do you like Mac Jones? Because I don't see a whole lot different there. And I think it'd be really, really bizarre because they probably wouldn't even have had to move up to get Mac Jones. They could have stayed right where they were at.
All right. So now we got the 49ers. They'll be on the clock. That'll be a lot of fun to call that. And, of course, the reactionary videos, that you're going to get around because people are going to be shocked either way, regardless of what they do, unless they said, boy, I had to trade up and get Kyle Pitts at tight end. It'll be one to keep an eye on. Let's keep moving here. Sam Darnold, who goes from the New York Jets, troubled little guy, down to Carolina. I do like the move because it's cheap. And anytime you can take a flyer on a quarterback where it's cheap, to me, it does make sense. But is this going to elevate the Carolina Panthers into the next stratosphere, Sam? We're really going to challenge now Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Sean Payton over in New Orleans. I don't think that's the case because this team has a lot of young talent, but still devoid of talent. The A.J. Boye pick, you're buying really low on a cornerback that's been banged up and struggling. Hopefully he can add some oomph to that secondary. Jackson on the opposite side, good. Used a draft pick there on Jeremy Chin. He's a very good player, but a lot of these guys really have to turn up on the offensive side of the ball. I like their offense. You have a really good running back. You have some water bug wide receivers, as I always call them. They can do a lot of different things. Now, you did lose one of those to the Washington Redskins, but it's still not a good offensive line. This isn't an athletic guy. Teddy Bridgewater was there, who is sort of like a 1-1A now with Sam Darnold. And I know what I'm trying to say is you're flipping the coin saying, if this works out on Darnold, we stole the guy. I mean, he was a high draft pick, didn't work out the Jets. He didn't have much to work with. Let's get down here an elite coaching staff, the Joe Brady's of the world. Matt Rule is your head coach. He's going to get all the coaching he needs to succeed, but will it make a difference, Kyle?
Yeah, I don't see it because I don't think he's better than Teddy Bridgewater. Now, he's got the upside, but I like to call Sam Darnold the Lego policeman, and I was pretty much out on him, and I felt bad for him, but it was that Monday night game in New England when the cameras caught him saying,
I think it was at home. I think it was even at home.
Yeah, it was even at home. And it's like, this kid's mentally is broken. It kind of reminds me of David Carr, Derek Carr's older brother. High draft pick, all this potential, gets absolutely destroyed behind a horrible offensive line in Houston. His confidence is gone, and he's a backup for the rest of his career, backing up Eli in New York, etc. And that's kind of what I feel like Sam Darnold is. Now, I agree with you. I like the move because they didn't pay anything to get him. And if for some reason he's able to tap into that potential that he had coming out of USC, it's a great pick. But do I think Sam Darnold is better than Teddy Bridgewater? No. Do I think the offense of Carolina was the problem last year? No. Their defense was atrocious. And I know they've done a few things. You're right about Boye, very, very talented if he can stay healthy. He's good. He just hasn't really shown a penchant for doing that. That defense is god-awful. The offensive line is god-awful. They also lost Curtis Samuel, who was a big part of that offense, especially in the red zone. So getting Sam Darnold, does it change anything for me for Carolina? No. Until I see that offensive line improve and that defense improve, I could care less. And quite frankly, I think Teddy Bridgewater is better than Sam Darnold.
Yeah, they got David Moore on that squad also at wide receiver, as well as DJ Moore. So more and more. Now, obviously, Robbie Anderson, pretty good deep threat, reunited with Sam Darnold. So we'll see if that pays off. But overall, as we take a look over to team totals, that's the end all be all. That's the flavor of the week, saying, did you really improve your football team? And in a 17-game schedule, Kyle, they're sitting at 7.5 here.
Yeah, it's a tough number because you look at that division and, even Atlanta, they're this up and down team. They have potential. They tend to start off slowly the last couple of years and pick it up. And then you've got New Orleans. Yes, no Drew Brees, but I think that team will be better. Great defense. You're probably not knocking off New Orleans, and of course the defending Super Bowl champs, who bring back all of their starters and don't seem to have any inclination of going backwards anytime soon, unless Tom Brady finally falls off that age cliff that we've all been waiting 10 years now for him to
still
do.
Waiting.
He's still waiting, and it's still not happening. So it's hard to imagine that total getting over 7.5. It's actually, you're getting a worse number on the under. So the under here is a little bit of a favorite, and I agree with that, even though they had the extra game. A 7-10, 6-11. It's weird to say those numbers, by the way. 6-11, 7-10 makes a whole lot of sense.
Teasers.
If they, even though McCaffrey will be back, the offense will be good, but that defense is still going to be bad, and that's not going to get it done, especially in that division with those three offenses.
All right, we'll keep going here. And talking about a guy, Sam Darnold, that was from the AFC East, now going to the NFC South. Why don't we keep it in the AFC East here and talk a little Buffalo Bills? The roster is there. The coordinators are there. The head coach is there. The GM is there. Everything is in place for the Buffalo Bills to make a run in this division and certainly own it for the next couple of years. Here's the issue that's going to be had with the Buffalo Bills. It's a copycat league. Like, most teams can rebuild in a couple of years and come after you. It's clear to me that the Buffalo Bills are the best team in this division, but a whole lot of draft capital, young players, and a good coaching staff is awaiting down in Miami. You now have Joe Douglas pulling the strings for the New York Jets. They have a ton of cap space and a ton of draft capital, and obviously hoping to get their franchise quarterback in this draft. You also have a New England team that's still Bill Belichick, still Josh McDaniels, and also still rebuilding with a lot of guys coming back. The only thing they are missing is the quarterback at this time. Taking a look at this division here, to me, it is still the Bills. But the reason why the Bills are really good and still sitting at a 10.5 team total shows you that division is getting better here around them.
Yeah, it's getting better. And the Jets are going to be a year away. It looks like by all accounts they're going to take Zach Wilson, and that's the direction they're going to go. And I love Robert Saleh, obviously, coming over from the 49ers. That defense is going to be better coached. They're going to be a little bit better. I think the Jets will be a little bit better this year. Ready to compete? No. Then you look at the Dolphins. I love what the Dolphins have going on, and it's really going to be about Tua. Can Tua progress into that quarterback you can trust? It can't be, hey, we're down by 10. We need to get the backup in here so we can throw a 10-yard out. If he's able to progress and take control of that offense and be the man of that offense, the Dolphins are going to be really tough, and they're just going to keep adding talent and keep adding talent and keep adding talent because they have tons of draft capital. Yeah. They're just getting better and better. The Dolphins would be the team I think are the closest, but I don't think they're quite ready yet to get to Buffalo. Buffalo's really, to me, just a running game away from being a really dangerous, complete team. They've got to get a running back that they trust that can take some of the pressure off Josh Allen, because it's very difficult for you to take a quarterback, throw 60 times a game, also make him your leading rusher. So you look at the end of the draft there. Travis Etienne makes a ton of sense out of Clemson if they're able to get Najee Harris. I know he'll probably be gone by then, maybe to Pittsburgh or someone like that. But if they can get themselves an established running back, they'd be a really, really tough out and might be, the favorite in the AFC, sort of maybe overtaking the Chiefs. And then the Patriots, hear a lot of talk. Maybe they're thinking of moving up to get their quarterback. If they get a quarterback, they're going to have a good defense. So that could change things. Right now, I'd say New England is the team I'm the most down on. Even though the Jets might finish with a worse record, their stock is trending up for me. I like what they're going to do with the quarterback. I love the coaches they hired. Interesting division, but right now it's Buffalo or bust.
I love what they did, too, because to me, there's a formula that really works for a team. Brian Daboll doesn't accept a head coaching job, which is amazing because I thought he was the best candidate overall. But this shows a guy that says, if this spot I'm going to isn't perfect for me, I trust that another spot will open up. And I'm good enough to say, well, he should have went. Now the Bills stink and he's not going to be a good coordinator or hot coaching prospect anymore. Being able to bet on yourself like that is fantastic. And the team that wins the most, that's the Buffalo Bills, because Daboll doesn't go anywhere. So Josh Allen, you figure, is going to still stay on that progression. But look at the wide receivers. Doesn't it set up perfectly? You get Stephon Diggs, a dominant number one wide receiver that can get deep. You have Cole Beasley, one of the best slot wide receivers in pro football. And then you add that vet, Emmanuel Sanders, on the opposite side, who is going to be able to make clutch catches. When you have a really good football team like they do, there's luxury picks that you can afford. Remember when the Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl, you draft at the end, they pick up Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, they don't need much, but damn, that is a nice move to add an extra playmaker. You're looking at that now with the Buffalo Bills, where if they can add one of those really good running backs at the end of the first round, which should be available, that is a luxury pick that can really help you out, because when you're in this spot, you can take the luxury. Now's not the time to say, well, let's take a offensive tackle late in the first round and build them maybe into something. No, your time is now. Take the luxury of just adding a playmaker, specifically at the running back position, which we both agree that is where you're lacking. Is Moss a decent running back? Sure. Singletary, good running back? Yes. But you still want that purebred running back that it's 3rd and 2. I can give him the ball and get the first down, Kyle.
Yeah, you're exactly. And you saw it last year. They didn't really know which running back they wanted to trust. And then they tried the young Moss, the young kid in the goal. It just didn't work out. Their goal line rushing threat was Josh Allen. And look, you want to extend the shelf life of your young stud quarterback, and making him your number one goal line rushing threat is certainly not the way to do it. And you're right. It is a luxury pick. They could even go grab a tight end if they want. I kind of like Dawson Knox. But there's lots, even, they got the young receiver Gabriel Davis last year, who looked really good filling in for John Brown. So now he's going to be sort of filling in for Emmanuel Sanders, or maybe vice versa. We'll see how he progresses. So they have all this plethora of talent. The luxury pick, it's got to be a running back at the end of that first round. Buffalo's going to win this division, in my opinion, barring some sort of catastrophic injury to Josh Allen, which he's a big, tough guy. You don't really see that coming. I actually like over the team total, because I think all those teams in the division are still going to be beatable. Miami might give them a little bit of grief. We thought that week 17, didn't we? Miami needs this win to get in the playoffs. What happened? Buffalo's backups came out there and beat the brakes off of the Dolphins, trying their hardest to make the playoffs. I'm not sure we're going to see that big of a step forward for the Dolphins, especially too. We're seeing the news. A lot of these teams aren't going to go for voluntary workouts, and so it might still be a little bit weirder of an offseason, where some of these players, like we say, don't want to go to work. They got the taste of sitting at home. You get more of that. It's really hard to develop as a team and get better when you're not working on the field. Going to take another year. Dolphins are on the rise, but I still think it's Buffalo's division, and I think the team total's fair, because I think they're better than all the teams in their division. There's 6 wins.
A couple things quick here. It's funny how I'm doing like a 180 on Tua. Loved when he got drafted by Miami. I thought it was the right move, the right spot for him. But watching him, and it's totally not fair. You're talking about a kid coming off an injury who had like barely an off season, and hey, look, maybe he doesn't look so good. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how Tua performs this year with a full off season. Now he's healthy and expected to be the guy. That's what I'm watching out for. Your second point you brought up, the fact that these guys, this is if you are, and how can I word this? When you're looking from a union perspective, nobody wants to go to work anyway. Say, hey, Kyle, you know what? We hired you at SBR. Don't ever come to work, but we give you a paycheck. You're like, where do I sign up for this job? It's the greatest thing in the world. But eventually you have to come to work, and it only benefits the players to come to work in the offseason, so you can get in the playbook, so you can get back to normal. We're going to work out by ourselves. That doesn't really fly. But that also is a ploy by the veterans. You know the biggest advantage of a guy is, let's just say you are a backup quarterback. Your team just drafted another quarterback. You say, I already know the playbook. Hey, let's stay away from camp. Well, the young kid doesn't get to learn the playbook. You already know the playbook. It's an advantage for you. Same thing with wide receiver, cornerback, or defensive tackle, wherever. I know this playbook. You don't. I have the advantage. You might not make the team because I already have a step. There's a huge ploy by the team, the players that are already in the league, not to show up, because if you know what the deal is, the other guy can't take his, he can't, hey, he looked great in the offseason. Why? Nobody worked out. How do you know anybody looked great? That is all a ploy. But also, something came down before the show went live today. And most people won't even bat an eye. And I cheered out loud at this news, Kyle. And I don't know if you saw it, but there will be no change to the onside kick this year. There's going to be no 4th and 15 where Patrick Mahomes just converts it with ease, or a personal foul, or a illegal contact. Another team gets the football back. Thank you. Thank you for not making a mockery of this league, to say a team that has fought hard all game long now has an advantage to try to come back and beat you. You should have done it for the other 59 minutes, Kyle. Your quick thoughts here on no longer having in the conversation 4th and 15 as opposed to the onside kick.
Yeah, I'm really happy about it too, especially from a betting perspective. We have enough opportunities to get backdoored in the NFL as it is. Do we need more bullshit? Do we need another way to have our bets killed in the NFL? I don't think we do. We already deal with dog shit head coaches who punt and do the weirdest things. We already deal with an incompetent officiating crew who are constantly costing us bets. Now we need some random 4th and 15 that takes away, or adds to a backdoor or a flip or no thank you. I'm glad it's gone. It was ridiculous to even do anyway. Just get it the hell out of here.
I mean, people talk about like, oh, they don't get an onside. Good, they don't get the onside kick. They're not supposed to get the onside kick. You're supposed to get the onside kick 1 out of every 100 times. You're losing. You're supposed to lose that game. You don't just get freebies at the end of the game like it's the NBA. Hey, somebody just hit a 3-point shot. We're down 1 with 2 seconds to go. Timeout. Now I have the advantage because I let up the 3-point shot and I get the ball in the front court. Get out of here with that nonsense. If you're losing for 59 minutes, damn it, lose for 60 and get out of town. So that's my thought process on that. Now, the fun part of the show for me starts right now. The draft doesn't start at number 3 with Kyle's 49ers. It starts at number 4 with the Atlanta Falcons because there are some bangers on the board. And I don't think you can go wrong by going Jamar Chase or if you go Kyle Pitts. And sometimes it's who's actually drafting. The Atlanta Falcons have a monster contract with Julio Jones. They've already drafted first rounders with Calvin Ridley. I doubt they're going another wide receiver when Pitts is going to be on the board. So we're not going to talk Pitts right now. This is focused on Jamar Chase. But the draft starts at 4, 5, and 6, where Jamar Chase is probably going to go. Or, hey, does he fall? And is this all a smokescreen where Penei Sewell is going to go and Kyle Pitts is going to go? Who's going to get chased? And, oh, yeah, Devontae Smith climbs back up the board and goes ahead of Jamar Chase, which I don't see happening. But I'm just speaking theoretically here. Jamar Chase, for you, Bengals, Dolphins, Falcons later, what is it for you?
Well, he makes sense for all of those teams. And now we're hearing rumors, the Dolphins are going to trade again, and this, that, and the third. Just crazy nonsense that they all pull out. But he makes sense for all those teams. And you talk about the Falcons. I mean, their offense every week, their success every week is predicated on the health of Julio Jones. And he's what every week? He's questionable every single damn week. So it does make a lot of sense there, although I can't help but hear over and over again that they're going Trey Lance or maybe Mac Jones. They're going to try to take Matt Ryan's predecessor. Then you go to the Bengals. I think the Bengals is really interesting because, you can make the argument both ways. Hey, let's get our young quarterback weapons. They have some good ones there. Boyd, T. Higgins, who they just drafted, looked really, really good. Of course, A.J. Green left. And so you add a weapon, and that helps, Joe Burrow. But also, he dropped back 60 times a game last year and was getting killed, and his offensive line is terrible. You need to get him a tackle. So then the offensive tackle out of Oregon makes a whole lot of sense in Penei Sewell. Then you look at the Dolphins. I mean, they could obviously use another wide. They did sign Will Fuller. How long is Will Fuller going to be healthy for? The only reason he was healthy last year is he's taking PEDs. And, we're leaving out a guy, Devontae Smith, who absolutely dominated college football, dominated the best competition. And it's funny, a guy like Jamar Chase, circa, Mike Williams back in the day, out of USC, sits out a year, and he's still way at the top of draft boards. How did the year off affect him? The team that makes the most sense to me for Jamar Chase, and he may not get there, but I do think there's a chance that he does, is right there at number 7, the Detroit Lions. They could really use a legitimate number 1 receiver. They obviously let Kenny Golladay go. They were just getting rid of all of their wide receivers last year. And remember saying, we want younger players, and then a young player comes out and plays well in Marvin Hall. They ship him out as well. Very, very strange. Now it's a death sentence for wide receivers. You're going to play with Jared Goff. And, you're not going to have that Sean McVay offense there to sort of cover that up and give you those Cooper Kupp type numbers. But number 7, Detroit makes a whole lot of sense for me. It wouldn't shock me if you see the Falcons go quarterback, Bengals go Sewell, Dolphins maybe go Devontae Smith over Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts right there at number 6. I think if Kyle Pitts is there, there's no way the Dolphins don't take him at 6, leaving Jamar Chase for the Lions. So my bold prediction, Jamar Chase, number 7 to the Lions.
It's interesting because I think if you're the Miami Dolphins, I think the Atlanta Falcons would do themselves a service here if they went from like 4 to 6 or 4 to back to 7, picked up like an extra second-round pick. It's a luxury what they have. If they're really settled on a quarterback at 4, which I don't know why you would be, you have some really good playmakers, and you might be able to still say, well, Matt Ryan can play a little bit. Let's keep him for the next 2 years while he has that huge cap hit. I can see that. But you could trade back and still get a dominant player at that position. I would be – if they go Pitts at 4 – look, he's a really good football player. I get that. But I think you need to start building more than what you have, which is interesting why the Falcons have that 4 spot. If you're the Bengals, you want to give Joe Burrow another weapon, you got to protect Joe Burrow. Blew out his knee. He's got enough weapons as is, a good running game. He can suffice. I think number 6 is perfect for me, for him to go to the Miami Dolphins, talking Jamar Chase, because if you're all in on Tua, give the guy as many weapons as he can and say, hey, kid, you're going to sink or swim this year. This is your year. You have everything you need. Good tight ends, decent offensive line, weapons at wide receiver, multiple running backs. Let's see what you have. I think, to me, Jamar Chase makes the most sense, and I think he should go number 6 overall, which, he used to sit at number 6 overall, Kyle. Do you know?
Oh, didn't your Philadelphia Eagles used to sit there at number 6?
Yeah. We got an extra first because, again, draft picks always win more than players on the football field, so we'll see what happens with that. But if he's around at 6, I'm going to be pissed.
Oh boy.
So as an Eagles fan, am hoping that Jamar Chase gets picked 4 or 5, because if he makes it to 6,
oh boy,
it's going to be a nice little draft party for me, to say the least.
Yeah.
Let's keep moving down. Atlanta Falcons, and what a great segue here, talking about who's the Atlanta Falcons should do it for. Is Todd Gurley washed up? It's a funny comment on here, because we put it there because, yes, he is washed up, and no, he doesn't have anything left in the tank. So if you're sitting at 4, which is exactly the argument I was just making, you need playmakers, specifically at running back as well. Slide back a couple picks, pick up an extra second rounder, go out and get yourself a running back, pick a legitimate player, because you still might be able to slide back to 6 or 7, and maybe Jamar Chase is still hanging out there if you made a move with the Detroit Lions and they wanted to move up and take Pitts or whatever happens. But looking at the Atlanta Falcons here, and I'm scrolling down to find their team total, which should be not
7.
all that inviting. 7. 7 and 10 is what we're looking at for the Falcons. But that could change with what they do in the draft. You go get Kyle Pitts or a decent wide receiver. That 7 doesn't look too bad at this point then.
Yeah, and actually the over's juiced up a little bit here at -143. So I think that number is going to be moving soon. It's probably after the draft as well, especially if they don't go quarterback. If, according to your logic, which I think makes a ton of sense, if they add someone who can help the team right away, not a guy like Trey Lance who you have to develop over a couple years. The whole top 10 quarterback, he needs to develop, he's not ready yet. Then just do it next year. Why waste your damn time? Do it when you absolutely have to. Make your team better. The Falcons are going to be a sneaky team. Their defense played a lot better once Raheem Morris took over last year, a lot better. And that's kind of been, the bugaboo for the Falcons the last couple of years since that Super Bowl. Starting off really slow, then they got better at the end of the year. I agree with you. I think they should trade down. I wouldn't even mind trading down, adding some second-round picks or third-round picks, and then re-moving up in the first round into those, like early 20s, 21, 22, and grabbing a Najee Harris, a real running back. Because, Todd Gurley's completely done. Kind of reminds you of Terrell Davis in a way.
Yeah. What an athlete. Like, what a can't-miss prospect that was he was so dominant at one time for the Rams and completely dead in the water now.
Right. It just happens to these running backs. And you think about it, when they have these high usage rates, you're getting in 25 or 30 car accidents every Sunday. I mean, that's what's happening. The amount of force that you're taking and the impact you're taking, and it does. It reminds me a lot of Terrell Davis, Hall of Fame guy, but it was really only about 4 really dominant years, and that's it. There's nothing else. Wasn't the long career, and that happens with a lot of these running backs. And we knew he had knee issues coming out of Georgia. They started to spring up, right after that, during that Super Bowl run. They didn't know how much they could play him, and it's sort of continued on. You might see Todd Gurley pop up. I mean, Lamar Miller got signed like 4 times, for Christ's sake, last year.
Yes.
So
I would take Lamar Miller over Todd Gurley. How do you like that?
Well, Todd Gurley's pretty good in the red zone, right? He's a touchdown guy. He runs downhill, and he doesn't fumble. So there might be teams who want like a veteran guy who is solid in the red zone, and they're getting him cheap, and they know they can if someone gets hurt, they can put him in, and he's not going to cough the ball up, in the red zone, etc. That's the only future for Todd Gurley here. Totally washed up. And Atlanta's going to be really, really interesting. Obviously, I'm going to be watching with bated breath when the 49ers pick 3, but it is going to be really interesting what the Falcons do at 4. Do they go quarterback? Do they move back? Do they help their current team? They could use some defensive help and offensive line help as well. So there's a lot of the Sewell, Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, where those 3 go. Justin Fields, maybe even you can throw in there, is really going to dictate a lot of what happens in the rest of the draft. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch on that Thursday.
No, it certainly will be. And thank you guys for tuning in on a little Football Friday talk here. Never heard anybody, as I like to say, mid-April as we get towards the draft. And also keep in mind, we're going to have some pretty good draft stuff coming up, some afternoon shows. Me and Kyle usually appear on a Friday. Well, how about this? We're going to appear on a Thursday and a Friday and do these shows, set up the tabs. We'll see what some of the lines are coming out closer to draft time. Where's a pick going to go? Any late information coming in? who are the 49ers going to draft at 3, and is it worth betting on? So we'll have some good stuff here at sportsbookreview.com. But everything across the channels coming up gravy here. You're talking NBA, you're talking Major League Baseball, you're talking any single thing, including a Football Friday here right in the middle of April. Check out everything we have to offer here at sportsbookreview.com. If you need more NFL action, as always, even though it's outside of football season, SBRpicks.com/NFL. Click that. Get all the latest up-to-date articles, as we said, moving toward the draft in the NFL. Hope you guys have a sensational weekend out there. I'm Donnie Seamer for Kyle Purviance. We are sportsbookreview.com, and this was your NFL show for Friday. Good luck on those future wagers.